India's Supreme Court has opened a historic debate on same-sex marriage. The court is hearing final arguments on several petitions calling for its legalization.
The central government very carefully filed an affidavit. There we did say in no uncertain terms and recorded by your lordships.
It's just the first day of hearings, which are being live-streamed given public interest. Many gay couples and LGBTQ activists are hoping for a judgment in their favor. But they are up against the government and religious leaders who oppose marriage between same-sex partners. Now, earlier this year, DW's Adil Bhatt met one same-sex couple from Delhi who are petitioners in the case and heard why marriage is so important to them.
Uday and Parth's love story is like any other. They met at school, fell in love, and built their life together in Delhi over 17 years. But as a gay couple in India, their relationship was considered a crime until the Supreme Court decriminalized homosexuality in 2018. Despite this landmark judgment, their relationship still has no legal recognition.
The right to marriage would significantly improve our lives. It would significantly help our lives as a couple. But we certainly see that it creates a conversation in the minds of people around us and would create a confidence in the minds of other young gay people.
Without legal recognition of their relationship, they cannot do ordinary tasks that most heterosexual couples take for granted, such as opening a joint bank account or making medical decisions for each other.
And despite those practical difficulties that couples face, there are groups vehemently opposed to the passage of any law legalizing same-sex unions. Far-right Hindu groups, for instance. DW correspondent Adil Bhatt spoke to one such group.
Our organization raided hotels where we found same-sex couples making love. We stopped them and got them arrested. Why should we encourage something that is not part of our culture? We investigated the matters and sent these couples behind bars.
Even the government is opposed to legalizing same-sex marriage. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's BJP government, in a March filing to the Supreme Court, said such unions are, quote, not comparable with the Indian family unit concept of a husband, a wife and children. And on Sunday, the government asked the court to dismiss the case, saying Parliament, rather than the courts, is the right platform to debate the matter. The petitions, which merely reflect urban elitist views, cannot be compared with the appropriate legislature, which reflects the views and voices of far wider spectrum and expands across the country. And joining me now for more context from Delhi is senior lawyer Malvika Rajkotia. She specializes in family law and is the author of the book Intimacy Undone: Marriage, Divorce and Family Law in India. Ms. Rajkotia, welcome. Can you help us understand what the government's core argument here is in opposing legalization of same-sex marriage in India?
Well, apart from the concern that it is too radical and society is not prepared for it, and also their own reservations, perhaps ideological, but not important, legally what they are taking is that the law as it stands and the statute as they are at the moment, be it the Special Marriage Act or be it the Hindu Marriage Act, which is the codified law, Hindu Marriage Act for the Hindus and Special Marriage Act for all communities, the statute does not leave room to include this new equation of same-sex marriage, meaning that the statutes are premised on heterosexual marriages. So in this morning's hearing, for example, the court had said that we are going to, and those are available online, the court had said that they only want to view on the issue of whether those with same-sex preferences are equal to those with heterosexual differences. And if they are, as they are, there is a series of judgments prior to that which has acknowledged that, then certainly they have a fundamental right to marry. And then if they have a fundamental right...
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were finished. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Right. So, and then they say that if you hold that far, then comes the question as to what is the law that will define and cover and regulate that relationship, which, according to the government, the current law does not take. And that's the position of the government and some other personal law boards that are also opposing this new interpretation to marriage.
Right. That's the legal aspect of it, and we're trying to sort of get a bit of the context around the discussions of this, and therefore I wonder if it serves anyone's interests if same-sex unions aren't legalized.
Well, it serves the interest of all conservatives, particularly who are conservative along religious lines, isn't it? Be it any community. I think all conservatives across all communities seem to be aligned on this issue, and they will treat it as an ideological victory. So it's as old as time. We've seen it happen. I mean, same-sex marriages were opposed even by the Vatican, isn't it? So that's always, when you're on the threshold of an important change, there is bound to be resistance.
You've dealt with family law for decades. In your personal experience, how much opposition is there in society to same-sex unions?
I mean, you see, because there would be segments. So again, it's conservative segments of all classes of society which would object to it. But is there going to be some horrendous uprising against it? No, I don't see that. I haven't seen any signs of it. There's too much else happening that is at the moment consuming people.
We're also talking of a country which decriminalized gay sex in 2018, and now the government is opposing legalizing same-sex marriages. Is India turning more or less conservative?
No, we are on paper, we seem to be moving towards less conservative, isn't it? So even with the legal decriminalization of same sex, that was a very bold move in 2018. And this is but the next step. And so I don't see why it would be treated as more conservative. Either way, there's a reaction. When you say India, it's so vast, there are many. There's no one position called of India. But yes, currently the government has taken this position, but the judiciary is a separate arm, which need not be aligned with the government. And in this case, is querying the government's position quite closely.
Now, assuming that the court does legalize same-sex marriage, could the government, in principle, enact laws to overturn that judgment?
Well, they could. That is a judgment which would then any laws that they pass, that they choose to pass, will again have to be tested on the anvil of fundamental rights and constitutionality. I mean, of constitutionality by the court again. So even any act that is passed will again come back to the court to be tested on this anvil. And this anvil very clearly will hold that the constitutional position is as follows, which should, the trajectory that we've been on, it should hold that it would be that same-sex marriage should be permitted because marriage is a fundamental right. But whether it will go into the whole gamut of what else, we don't know. We can just wait and watch.
Just on a practical level, ma'am, how does not being married impact daily life for same-sex couples in India?
See, that is true of anywhere in the world, isn't it? You want to, adopting children as a single parent is a little is more complicated. Adopting as an unmarried couple is complicated. There could be other issues. These are world issues. These are not limited to India, but the issue of inheritance laws, the issue of a spouse can inherit a pension benefit, and so on. So unmarried people, unmarried couples who've spent years and years together stand to lose those benefits, which is again a global issue and has been dealt with in some countries to be inclusive, and in some it's yet to happen.
I just have one more question for you, and it might be speculative in nature, so feel free to not answer it, but I will risk it and ask you nonetheless. I mean, the matter is being heard by a 5-judge Constitution bench headed by Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, who was also a member of the 5-judge bench that legalized gay sex in 2018 in India. What are the chances you reckon the court could legalize same-sex marriage?
Oh, you're quite right in warning me beforehand. I'm not going to speculate.
No, I just thought I'd ask you nonetheless.
It looks hopeful. The court has an open mind. That seems to be quite clear from the interaction of watching online this morning, that it's certainly not closed.
I therefore feel compelled to ask you one last question. Is India ready for change?
Oh, yes. Of course, India is always ready to change, and they will, like in any other part of the world, when there is change, there is also resistance to change. There is no one country, isn't it, represented in one voice in any part of the world.
A pleasure talking to you, Malvika Rajkotia. Thank you so much for your perspective.
Thank you.